In the book of Exodus, chapter 32 recounts a powerful and intense story known as the golden calf. This chapter describes a moment of deep disobedience and subsequent judgment among the Israelites, right after they had been miraculously freed from slavery in Egypt and were journeying under the guidance of Moses and the visible presence of God. After the Israelites had settled at the base of Mount Sinai, Moses ascended the mountain to speak with God and receive further instructions. He stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, during which God gave him the 2 tablets of the law, etched with the 10 commandments. However, during Moses' prolonged absence, the people of Israel grew restless and uncertain. They began to worry that Moses, their leader, might not return and questioned his continued absence. They felt abandoned and decided to take matters into their own hands. The people went to Aaron, Moses' brother and second-in-command, demanding, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Pressured by their insistence, Aaron decided to comply with their wishes rather than resist them. He instructed them to take off their gold earrings, the jewelry they had brought with them from Egypt, and bring them to him. The people obeyed, and soon Aaron collected all the gold. He melted it down and molded it into the shape of a calf, a common symbol of strength and fertility in ancient cultures. When the calf was finished, Aaron presented it to the people, and they proclaimed, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Aaron then built an altar before the golden calf and announced that there would be a feast the next day, a celebration dedicated to the Lord, though it was in direct violation of God's commandments. The following day, the Israelites rose early and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before the calf. They then indulged in revelry, celebrating with a feast that quickly devolved into chaos. This worship of the golden calf was a complete rejection of the covenant they had agreed upon with God, who had forbidden idol worship. Meanwhile, on the mountain, God informed Moses of the people's actions. He told Moses, "Go down, because your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them, and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, and have said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.'" The Lord's anger burned against the Israelites, and he expressed a desire to destroy them for their unfaithfulness, promising instead to make a great nation out of Moses. However, Moses interceded on behalf of the Israelites, pleading with God to turn from his fierce anger. He reminded God of his promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the patriarchs of Israel, and argued that destroying the Israelites would only give the Egyptians reason to mock God's name. Moved by Moses' plea, God relented from bringing disaster upon his people. Moses then descended the mountain, carrying the 2 tablets of the covenant, inscribed by God's own hand. When he neared the camp, he heard the sounds of the people singing and revelry. As he came closer, he saw the golden calf and the people dancing around it. Enraged by their actions, Moses threw down the tablets, breaking them at the foot of the mountain, symbolizing the shattering of the covenant the people had so quickly broken. Moses then took the calf they had made, burned it in the fire, ground it into powder, and scattered it on the water. He made the Israelites drink it, a bitter reminder of their idolatry. Afterward, he confronted Aaron, demanding an explanation. Aaron tried to deflect responsibility, saying, "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." So I told them, "Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off." Then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Seeing that the people were out of control, with Aaron having let them get so out of hand that they had become a laughingstock to their enemies, Moses stood at the entrance to the camp and called out, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." The Levites rallied to him, and Moses instructed them to go through the camp, putting to death those who had engaged in idolatry. About 3,000 people died that day, and this action served as a stern measure to restore reverence and obedience among the people. The next day, Moses addressed the people, acknowledging the great sin they had committed. He then returned to the mountain to seek atonement for them, confessing their sin to God and asking for forgiveness. Moses even offered his own life, saying, "But now, please forgive their sin, but if not, then blot me out of the book you have written." God responded that he would not blot Moses out, but would hold each person accountable for their own sin. He sent a plague upon the people as punishment for their idolatry. Thus ends the story of the golden calf, a somber reminder of the dangers of impatience, disobedience, and the abandonment of faith. Through this story, the Israelites were taught the gravity of breaking God's covenant and the importance of wholehearted devotion, an enduring lesson about the consequences of turning away from God.